Welcome to the channel English Epics. Each of us has them. Some are universal, your first Indian restaurant, your first competitive game, your first kiss with someone your own age, your first sexual experience. I'll admit, mine wasn't all that great. Your first painful breakup dot, and then there are the unique moments of realization, the personal ones, not like everyone else's. The ones you seem to go through alone. Your first failed exam. Your first time getting fired. Your first car, your first mortgage payment. Your first act of revenge on a spouse. That last one hurt the most. Damn, why revenge was both unique and painfully familiar. I met Karen during my final year of college. Slim dot, beautiful. Our first date was at the homecoming dance in the fall. By Christmas, we were close and fooling around in bed. She accepted my proposal during spring break. We got married in August. Then we moved back to Cincinnati, our hometown dot. Yes, our sex life as newlyweds was incredible. We diligently practiced what I call the attributes of sex, frequency, intensity, variety, and equality. No, I have a headache excuses. After 2 very active months, we found out that Karen was infertile and I had a low sperm count. At the time, living together without having children of our own didn't seem frightening. We simply focused more on each other. It was delightful. Eventually, we settled into a routine, sex every Wednesday night and Sunday morning. Long, exhausting, exploratory sessions. Every new way of stimulating Karen, no matter how subtle, brought her immense pleasure. Her skills also brought a great deal of creative finesse. It was a wonderful shared life. Curiously, there was nothing unconventional about it. That sort of thing didn't appeal to either of us, but I digress. At the beginning of the summer after college, I passed the exam to become a certified public accountant and took a job in the investigative division of a firm in Cincinnati, Ohio, but specialized in tracking down fraud in the business world. Good. Money, home every evening. Weekends off, but extremely busy during tax season in the spring. Those overtime hours and the extra income paid for enjoyable December vacations and Mother's Day weekend getaways. Yes, we had a good life. We had plenty of typical features. A nice apartment, 2 late model cars, a big television, a fancy barbecue grill, my crematorium, strong enough to cook a small airplane, and a pleasant circle of young, newly married friends, lots of dancing, ballroom, folk, European, English, Latin American, Texas style. No modern dance that we both exercised and went jogging. When we moved to the southeast side of Cincinnati to be closer to my work, we began making payments on a house. Our life was a beautiful cliche. The turning point seemed to come about 6 years into our marriage. Our friends began having children, which limited their social availability. Being childless, we started to feel a bit isolated. That fall, Karen became deeply interested in religion. It quickly escalated into attending church every Sunday morning and choir rehearsals every Wednesday evening. You can probably imagine how that affected our sex life. It declined, then it went downhill. And then downhill again. By the end of the year, we were trying to have sex every other Saturday night. For Karen, it seemed to become nothing more than a marital duty, something to endure rather than enjoy. Would lie down and say, "Just hurry, I'm tired." Not exactly inspiring around that time. I became a very good auditor. I learned how to quickly identify issues, fraud, and deception. I started developing targeted areas where violations were least expected. I figured out how to shrink a 2-day audit down to just half a day, a major cost savings for our clients. I wrote it all down. A publisher specializing in accounting literature quickly sold out the entire print run, and I received a decent amount in royalties. I kept the money and used it to buy high-quality homebrewing equipment, supplies, and training courses that I had a great time at. Homebrewed beer paired beautifully with my grilling efforts after spending the whole day uncovering other people's financial problems. I had no emotional energy left to do the same at home. We had a simple system in our family. Karen handled it all herself. Sometimes I'd walk into our study/home office in the evening while Karen was wrapping up our accounting, writing one or two final checks. All of this formed the backdrop to Karen's betrayal and my revenge. One day in early May, Karen went to her niece's wedding in Louisville, Kentucky. I stayed home. On Saturday morning, I worked out and took care of the latest batch of homebrewed beer fermenting in our basement. Then I came upstairs, had lunch, and enjoyed a bottle from the previous batch. Chilled, flavorful, strong, not knowing where to go or what to do with myself. I decided to take a look at our family's financial situation. For the past 3 years, Karen had been paying all the bills. She never told me how we were doing financially, how much we had in checking, savings, or investments that I sat down at the desk in our office and reached for the drawer where we kept our financial records that IT was locked. Why would she do that? There was no good reason I could think of. Where was the key? I checked the other drawers in the desk. No key. Then I walked through the house, looking in all the usual spots. Little boxes, ceramic bowls, the hooks where we hung. Our key stopped finally. I found it in Karen's jewelry box. On her dresser in our bedroom, top drawer, third compartment from the front, all the way in the back. Why there? It took me less than 2 minutes to find the problem. Everything looked just fine until I looked at our credit card activity. That in the most recent statement, there was a recurring charge every Thursday. King Rail Motel near the Cincinnati airport, a large motel with a conference center, 3 buildings, each 3 stories tall. People fly in, the shuttle picks them up. They stay at the nearest motel, take care of business, maybe spend a night or 2, catch the shuttle back to the airport, and fly home. Simple that I checked the previous monthly statements. The Thursday charges had been happening since January, each time. $1.70 that I didn't bother going through earlier years that I put the papers back in the desk drawer, closed it, and returned. The key to Karen's jewelry box. Now everything made sense that a bitter taste rose in my throat, and my forehead felt hot that I rubbed my eyes in disbelief, ran to the bathroom, threw up dots so much for lunch that IT was awful. The following Wednesday, I took a long lunch break. I grabbed the photo of Karen that sat on my desk and paid a visit to King Royal. Yes, of course, the front desk clerk said when I showed him Karen's photo. Every Thursday, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., when she returns the room key. Alone, I asked. She's the only one I've ever seen. She always takes room 117. Entrance is on the back side of the building. Ground floor, about halfway down, right behind the walkway between the front and rear parking lots. Take a walk. You'll see it yourself. I thanked him and gave him a 20 for the trouble that I walked down the hallway and found the door. Noted where the window was. On the way back, I started thinking about what to do next. Then it hit me, a brilliant idea, creative and simple. Next day, Thursday, I drove to the gas station located across the road from the back of the King Royal Motel. I arrived around 9:45 a.m. and bought a cup of truly awful coffee. Thankfully, I didn't have to wait long. Soon, Karen's car pulled into the back lot of the motel and parked at the far left end of the row. She got out, walked toward the middle of the building, and entered through the central hallway. Exactly at 10 a.m., a clearly new Buick pulled into the lot and parked on the far right end. Out stepped a pudgy, balding guy who also walked into the middle hallway. Why him? I knew I was in better shape and looked far better. What the hell was wrong? My face flushed with rage. It took me 5 minutes to pull myself together and wrestle down the fury. Following my stroke of inspired genius, I drove up to the motel and parked right next to Karen's car, on its right side that we both kept keys to each. others' cars on our respective keychains, so I knew my plan would work that I walked over to the other car, just as I thought. The rear license plate read, Walter Goodall Buick Dealership. The next line on the plate was their standard slogan, featured in every one of their ads. Visit Walter Goodall Buick for your next car. I removed the license plate. It was held on by strong magnets. My stomach gave a noticeable jolt that I went back to my own car, placed the license plate on the driver's seat, and locked the doors. Karen would have to unlock my car to retrieve it. Satisfied, I got into Karen's car and drove to work. Classic switcheroo. Haha. A day at the office, ups and downs everywhere, moments of excitement, and moments of gloom that I came home after work, wondering what would be waiting for me that I didn't have to wait long. That I walked into the kitchen and pulled one of my beer bottles from the fridge. Karen was sitting at the table, her hands resting on her knees, crying. Tears streamed down her cheeks. She got me. She knew I had a weakness for crying women of any age. Karen stood up and came over to me. She placed her hands on my shoulders, laid her head on my chest, and started sobbing even harder, so much that she soaked my shirt. I'm so sorry, I heard her say through the tears. I don't know why I did it. I held her for a long time before I quietly asked, when did it start? At our 10-year high school reunion last May, Walt and I dated during the last 2 years of high school. Things started falling apart toward graduation that I got pregnant. The abortion went badly. That's why I can't have children that I didn't want to tell you, ever. But last July, we picked up right where we left off in high school that he was my first, that I gave him my virginity, that he's always been the only man I've ever truly loved. Side note, women don't usually lose their virginity. They give it. I broke it off with Walt today that he has a wife and 3 small children, and I don't want to marry him, that he's afraid his family will find out. Pause, more quiet sobs. Can you forgive me? Of course, I said softly, gently holding her close. We can get through this storm. Let's go away. Let's find each other again. And we did that. We acted like newlyweds. Point 3 Mother's Day, weekend days that felt like the first 2 months of our marriage, that we were together again, in love again, or maybe not. As the weeks went by, I started feeling like Karen was putting on a show. Something about it lacked authenticity. Our sexual intimacy was rescheduled to Tuesday evenings and Saturday mornings. Tuesday sessions were great, but there was always something that needed to be done on Saturday mornings. Errands, yard work, obligations. And I had the distinct sense that Corinne was perfectly fine with that. The suspicions came back. 2 weeks later, I was once again watching from across the street from the motel as Corinne resumed her Thursday visits from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the King Royal. Walt showed up right on schedule. It had started up again in mid-June. I checked the following Thursday as well, just to be sure. Why didn't it occur to them that maybe they should meet somewhere else? Stupid that I showed the front desk clerk at the King Royal her photo again. Yeah, he said. She took a few weeks off, but now she's back. Pays in cash now. No credit card. Just between us, I pocket that money myself. The cleaning staff cleans the rooms every day, but I don't care whether someone was there or not. A room that needs cleaning is a room that gets cleaned. It was time to see TMY's stress level had reached an all-time high. Never in my life had I planned something so carefully after spending all of July preparing. I chose a Thursday in mid-August that I could have postponed it a week if necessary, but not moved it earlier. The first person I told about Corinne was my sister Sharon, who lived about 2 blocks away from us. Her house and property were much nicer than ours. Her husband, Arnold Carson, was a very successful divorce attorney who specialized in representing men. What a lucky coincidence. We talked. They had a beautiful, fully furnished guest apartment above the garage. Sharon said I could use it whenever and however I needed. God bless them. Arnie said I needed evidence. The stronger and more explicit, the better that he sent me to a company called Stealth Photography, that I gave them the date, location, time, and put down a deposit that we had a deal. Then we met with the front desk clerk at King Royal Motel that he agreed to give me room 117 for 20 for hours. Preparation for my wife's little rendezvous began Wednesday at 2 p.m. and went into the evening. The daytime shoot the next day was set that I gave the clerk $250 and promised another $250 on Thursday afternoon when we picked up the equipment. My pocket appreciates it, he said as the cash disappeared. Stay in position, out of sight. From 11 to 00 to 1 to 00 that you're not supposed to hear anything. No problem. Back at the house, I looked over the things I'd want to take with me: clothes, books, recipes, DVDs, and CDs. A few plates and cups I inherited from my grandmother. And, of course, my brewing equipment, all the beer left in the fridge, and most importantly, not to forget the crematorium. Arnie drew up the necessary paperwork. Walter Doodle was named specifically for alienation of affection and adultery. Arnie told me that would have an immediate impact and drag his dirty bedroom fun into the public spotlight. That he also assured me that Walt's wife would own that dealership by year's end. That I didn't particularly like the idea, but in the end, every choice carries consequences. That it would cost him his ass. That he'd be lucky if he ever saw his kids again. At the same time, I got in touch with an old high school football buddy of mine, Tony Stampino, that we had been a killer defensive duo during our last 2 years of high school. Sports reporters used to call us the unshakable beasts that no one could get past. U.S. winning the state championship in our senior fall proved it about to win. We had to beat a tough team from Cleveland. After school, Tony didn't go to college. He went into the family business now. He was basically running it, but we met for lunch. On Friday that I told him about my situation. Then I told him about my plan that he liked, ITA as far as he knew. No one had ever done anything like that before. I'll handle the delivery myself, he decided. All you'll need to pay for are the materials and the truck. Mileage. No labor costs. Cash only. He gave me a price. I thanked him. Tony promised to use a recipe his family had never had the chance to use. Until now, finally, the day arrived. On Wednesday, August 20th, 2014, I told Karen that I'd be home late that evening because I had to help meet with a new client. That IT was the only time that worked. The stealth photography technician showed up right on schedule using a stepladder. He installed a miniature video camera inside the upper smoke detector. That IT was motion activated. That he checked the focus, tested the microphone. That meant the small white indicator light on the detector wouldn't be lit, but in daylight, who would notice the camera? Transmitted video and audio via Wi-Fi to a recording device set up in the motel's maintenance room, about 30 feet from the main lobby. Another technician arrived around 9:45 the next morning to monitor the recording. After that, he left for lunch. That we met with him around 2:30 p.m. to dismantle the equipment. That I had to be there both times because I was the one with the key card to the room. That I wanted to avoid involving a second front desk clerk. The technician and the clerk we were working with wanted the same. The next morning, I picked up the small moving van I had rented, the smallest one they had available. All my belongings in the house were already packed and ready. That IT took me about 15 minutes to load everything into the van that I drove to Sharon's house and moved my things into the apartment above the garage. Nothing fancy, but I was sweating the entire time. Nervous. What would my neighbors think? Seeing me loading my stuff into a rental van and driving off, what would Sharon's neighbors think? Seeing me clearly moving in, well, I'd worry about that later. That I went into my sister's house and picked up the paperwork her husband had prepared, ready to come after Corinne and Walter with everything I had. Everything was going according to schedule that I in the motel parking lot on the end where Walt usually parked. Two of the last spots had been taken since early morning by a Volkswagen minivan and a '95 Ford pickup that I, and the third spot, we placed a large, fully loaded, yellow dumpster right near the edge of the lot. Now, no matter what Walt drove, if he parked in that third spot, his car would stick out over the parking line by about a meter. If he parked in the fourth spot, we'd have even more room to work with. He showed up in a shiny forest green Buick convertible with dealership plates, brand new, pristine, that he parked in the space right next to the dumpster. Shortly after 10 o'clock, I moved the pickup and minivan to the front lot of the motel. Then I rolled the dumpster over to the far edge of the parking area. Now there were two and a half open spaces next to Walter's car. My friends picked up their vehicles around 11:00 borrowing a stethoscope from our company nurse. I used it outside the window of room 117 at around 10:45. I listened in on their explicit, vulgar conversation for 5 minutes. Their usual verbal foreplay. It felt like hearing a final goodbye from a longtime friend. Sad, but not overwhelming. This time that I had moved on, emotionally and physically. Tony called me on the disposable cell phone I bought the day before. He said he'd be there in 20 minutes. Sure enough, around 11:15, a massive truck with a rotating concrete drum silently backed around the motel with the reverse beeper, turned off, and pulled up next to Walter's car. The rest was simple. Tony set up the chute and began pouring cement into the front seat of the convertible. We didn't speak. After about 2 minutes, he shifted the chute and started filling the back seat. The results were glorious. Fresh concrete weighs over 2 tons, nearly a full cubic meter. First, the car's wheel rim started to buckle. All 4 tires blew out. Then the axle snapped next. The steering rods and frame sidewalls gave way. What had once been a straight, sleek side profile was now a long, shallow arc. The muffler collapsed with a crunch. The Buick was completely destroyed that I felt almost too sad to laugh, but not Tony that he was roaring with joy. His express delivery took just about 7 minutes that he drove. The truck to the edge of the motel lot, hosed it down, and rinsed everything off that I paid Tony. And he drove away that I waited until 12:30 with the key card ready. I walked down the hallway to room 117, holding the documents in my hand. Impunity and enthusiasm breed carelessness that I discovered that when I opened the door, the lovers hadn't bothered to lock the inner deadbolt or use the security chain. What a sight. Walter was fondling Curran's glorious left breast, his pants and underwear around his ankles. She was stroking what looked like his manhood, shorter and thinner than mine. She gave up my larger equipment for that. The lovers froze and slowly processed. Someone had entered the room. That someone was me. I was standing over them with legal papers in hand. I handed each of them the proper documents. I cheerfully muttered goodbye and left. Walter didn't yet know what had happened to his car, that I wish I could have been there when he found his precious convertible, that, as I confirmed later, its adjusted retail price was about $43,000, including extras, sales tax, licensing fees, and insurance, and wouldn't you know it, a total loss. Later that same day, after the technician and I retrieved the equipment from the motel room, Arnie and I reviewed the video. Good audio, clear visuals, unfiltered content, advanced sex techniques, and sensual sounds. A beautiful overhead angle. Arnie said it was a major asset for our case. Then he started chuckling and laughing. Stealth photography made 8 copies for me, grinning. The technician asked if he could keep one for himself. Of course, I said, keep the master copy. I won't be needing it anymore. I gave one of the copies to the front desk clerk. Enjoy the movie. I said that. He grinned that I returned the room key card, underneath which was $250 in cash. Thank you, he said, slipping the money into his pocket and the top drawer of his desk. I'm at your service anytime. Good afternoon. This is Mary Janice reporting live on channel 5 at 3:15 p.m. I'm standing in the rear parking lot of the King Royal Motel. Near the Cincinnati airport behind me, you can see what was once a beautiful, brand new Buick convertible. Camera pans across the scene. After receiving an anonymous tip, we discovered that both the front and back seats of the vehicle had been filled with fresh concrete. Our estimates suggest the wet concrete weighs over 1.5 tons. Concrete dries quickly on the outside. It's already solid to the touch. She steps forward and taps the concrete to demonstrate. The dealer plate indicates that this 2015 model year convertible came from Walter Goodall Buick. Employees at the dealership have refused to answer any questions. Calls to Walter Goodall and his attorney have gone unanswered that we're now waiting. A response team from the Tune for more updates at 6:00 and 11 p.m. A siren can be heard in the background as she wraps up her report. Cincinnati Enquirer, August 23, 2014. Section A, page 3. Police Chief Gordon Barnes stated that the police crime lab analyzed the composition of the concrete used in the vehicle destroyed 2 days ago at the King Royal Motel. Crime lab personnel investigated 10 cement companies in the greater Cincinnati area. None of them sell the type of concrete used in the Buick. The specific recipe identified. All 10 companies denied making any deliveries between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. on Thursday, August 21st. Goodall continues to refuse to answer any questions about the vehicle or why it was found at the motel. He referred inquiries to his attorney, Landis Barstow, who also declined to comment. As of now, said Chief Barnes, no complaint has been filed on behalf of Walter Goodall's dealership or the vehicle's owner. From the police department standpoint, the matter is closed. Work order for Sono Construction Company, Friday, August 22nd, 2014. Use jackhammers to remove concrete from the Buick convertible in the rear lot of the King Royal Motel. Use crane 3 to lift and remove large chunks of cement. Dispose of the concrete at the county landfill. Billed to Walter Goodall Buick dealership. Work order for Easy Road Towing Company, Saturday, August 23rd, 2014. Remove the remaining parts of the Buick convertible found behind the King Royal Motel. By now, all concrete should have been cleared. Tow the vehicle to Jones Scrap Metal Company on 2nd Street for processing through their auto compactor. Squeeze a lot. Bill to Walter Goodall Buick dealership. Note on the package. Personally delivered on Wednesday, August 27th, 2014. Dear Mrs. Goodall, this is a copy of the video recorded between 10 a.m. and noon on Thursday, August 21st, 2014, at the King Royal Motel. You are free to use it without restriction for any personal or legal action you may wish to pursue against Walter Goodall. Signed, Arnold J. Carson, attorney. Note on the package. Personally delivered on Thursday, August 28th, 2014. Dear Mrs. Davison, this is a copy of the video recorded between 10 a.m. and noon on Thursday, August 21st, 2014, at the King Royal Motel. If you contest the divorce in any way, this video will be submitted as Exhibit A in our case, with copies forwarded to the local newspapers, radio, and television stations. We will insist that the judge view it, and, if necessary, any member of the jury as well. Signed, Arnold J. Carson, attorney. Note on the package. Personally delivered on Thursday, August 28th, 2014. Dear Mr. Goodall, this is a copy of the video recorded between 10 a.m. and noon on Thursday, August 21st, 2014, at the King Royal Motel. If you interfere in any legal proceedings, yours or Mrs. Davison's, we will push for this video to be admitted as evidence and will send copies to local newspapers, radio stations, and TV networks. Please note, yesterday at 9:30 a.m., a copy of this same video was delivered to Mrs. Goodall by private courier. Signed, Arnold J. Carson, attorney, from the Cincinnati Enquirer, legal filings. October 10th, 2014. The divorce was finalized on Wednesday. October 8th, Karen Davison versus Harold Davison, uncontested. Settlement terms not disclosed. No children. From the Cincinnati Enquirer, legal filings. October 24th, 2014. The divorce was finalized on Tuesday, October 21st. Sharon Goodall versus Walter Goodall. Uncontested settlement. Terms not disclosed. 3 minor children. From Business News Weekly, Cincinnati edition. November 18th, 2014, Sharon Goodall has been named the new owner and chief operating officer of Goodall Buick Automotive Group. This includes all 7 dealership branches across the Cincinnati metro area. Ms. Goodall assured all former and future customers that great deals and quality repairs remain the hallmark of every location. To celebrate the change in leadership, special sales and reduced pricing will continue through January 15th, 2015. From the Cincinnati Enquirer, advertising banner Sunday supplement, November 23rd, 2014. Great deals at lower prices at Goodall Centers on 2014 and 2015 models. Addresses of all 7 locations were listed, along with photos of new vehicles and sample prices. Thank you for being with us. And if you're one of those who watches silently, just leave a like. It helps new stories come to light.